We really don't have time for this. The whole place is gonna blow.
No, I don't trust you. I don't want to do this anymore if I'm not gonna get straight answers from you.
God damn it. Here's my fucking downloaded brain, Morty. You wanna jump the shark? You wanna know my stupid crybaby backstory? Knock yourself out. Not now!
Hey, welcome back to Landscape Alert, where in this week we are going to be recreating the landscape design for the base of operations for Rick and Morty, which is a series that you can find in Adult Swim or HBO Max. Now that's out of the way, let's get to the design in itself. Now, one thing I should say is that because this is an animation series, there's a lot of stuff that we just don't know. So some of this stuff I am more or less using some weird math to get to some of these measurements, but it will be an actual design with actual measurements that you can use if you decide to copy this as your actual house, if you happen to be a super fan of Rick and Morty. That being said, let's get started. Now, the first thing I do is that I open a sheet of 18 by 24 for drawing, and I do it in landscape. Once I have that, I start to kind of get the measurements, which what I said earlier as far as not knowing all of these things, I kind of went off of some of the measurements that I've worked on in the past as far as the sizes of garages, the size of the driveway, the entrance of the home, the sidewalk, and so forth and so on. With that being said, there's a lot of stuff on the internet as far as pictures, and if you watch the actual series, you'll see that depending on the season, they do some adjustments to the actual house. For the driveway, I started after the 5 feet of the sidewalk, and then when it meets to the garage in itself is 20 feet, and I put another 20 feet in the back because there is some rooms back there. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on here, so I'm just giving you those measurements. In itself, I did make a square of 90 feet by 90 feet. That way you guys kind of see what I'm doing or what's going on as far as this measurements. But once I did the garage and all this, I also made the house. Roughly it's 40 feet where you have the garage and the stuff in the back, also 80 feet across. And in the back, it does have a covered area. Now, depending on where you see as far as the season, it kind of shifts around to right next to the back of the garage, and then it kind of moves and it shifts a little bit. Also in the backyard, there is a shed, and I kind of put just for now a number that I think would be sufficient, which is a 10 by 10, but it looks actually a bit smaller. It could potentially be like a 6 by 8, but because of this design and the way I'm kind of making this, I decided, 10 by 10 would probably be more ideal if you have this space. That's what I'm kind of going off on this. Now, not exactly sure, I didn't really research enough to know where this is potentially, where this would be existing, I guess, or somebody would actually build it. So I'm going to say that somewhere that's there's a lot of humidity, because there is a lot of grass all around in the backyard, the sides of the house, and also the front of the house itself. Now, overall, there's not a lot of stuff going on other than what I mentioned earlier. There is a pathway that goes from the front sidewalk to the entrance of the home, which seems to be about 3 feet, and then on the sides there are some type of bricks, pavers that kind of make this a little bit wider, which I would probably assume that those bricks are probably about 6 inches wide. So 6 by 6 plus 6, 12 inches, so another foot to that front access pathway. There is this small wall in the front, which is also made of the same material of the front of the house, which is a red brick, to be elevated about 24 inches, and kind of goes from the house out another 24 to I would say most likely 3 feet, where you have some shrubbery there. Now, just because I wanted to put something that's going to be more of on the evergreen, I did put Manhattan euonymus, which, if you don't know, it's a pretty good actual shrub, so maybe check that out. Now, in front of the house, right next to the main door, there is another shrub, but again, we don't know really what it is because it's just something they're green, so I'm going to go with a dogwood. Now, there's many kinds of dogwoods, so keep that in mind. There's some really cool stuff out there, so it just depends on the part of the country that you live, especially if you want to use this plant. Now, one thing that I think it's funny is that next to the garage, there is this planter base right there, and you have some type of thing there. So, just because I am kind of working on the design, I said, you know what? Why not put something like a cast iron plant, which I think it would actually work really well with this front. So that would actually do well. Now, in between both properties, there is this raised bed with some shrubbery, which again, you can probably do whatever you want. And in this case, I probably think that you can do some type of aspirea or potentilla in that area, because of the raised bed, and it's pretty hardy, and you just add a little bit of water, well, not a little bit of water, but they're pretty resilient as far as shrubs go. Other than that, the front of the yard is more or less sod or grass. Irrigated with some type of irrigation, especially if there's a lot of water, then it may not need this much of irrigation, but even then you should add some to it. Now in the backyard, there's not a lot of stuff going on other than what I said earlier, having a shed in one corner. On the opposite side, there is a tree. So if we're talking about trees, there's all kinds of trees. So why not just put a maple, right? There's different kinds of maples. We never really see it turn colors, so we're just gonna leave it as maybe a State Street maple. If you want to go with that, a linden, oak, you can really pick as to what you want. It seems to be a reasonable height, about 40 or so feet, 30 to 40 feet. It seems to be a little bit above the house, which this house happens to be at 2 floors on one side of the house. So this probably is a pretty big tree, so that's the reason why I'm going to go with a maple, specifically a State Street maple. But other than that, there really isn't a whole lot going on in this design. Pretty simple, but the series in itself is pretty fun. If you happen to be a fan, then you're probably going to at least enjoy seeing what's going on here. Of course, I'm not talking about the actual design of the house. There's other videos here on YouTube that you can also watch. And with that, I think you can enjoy this landscape design. What do you think about this? Let me know in the comments, and you can also follow us on Instagram over at Landscape Allure, and we also happen to have a TikTok if you're into that stuff. It's the same idea as far as showing you how to design your own landscape, especially if you are working this as a project for the front, back sides, or whatever it is that you're doing. And with that, we are going to bring this to an end. What are your thoughts on this design though? Is this something that can fit your house? Leave a comment down there so I can read it, and let me know if you enjoyed this type of content so I can do more research on other shows, and also your recommendations would be appreciated. So I like to say thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it, and I will see you guys on the next video. But before that, don't forget our motto, which is dream, design, create. Have a good one. Bye bye.